right, guys. Welcome to the show, John. Everybody out there, forgive the technical difficulties. We are doing a whole bunch of brand new stuff we've never done over here before, including streaming exclusively to a couple of other platforms. So forgive me, John. I didn't think this out very well ahead of time with the maintenance, but yeah, guys, for everybody else's information out there, what John and I are going to be talking about today is going to be incredibly sensitive. And at some point, fairly early on in this, we will probably remove our live stream from Facebook primarily because I am so sick and tired of being censored and in Facebook jail. I only got out of Facebook jail this afternoon, so we can stream there as well. So we'll try and carry on as long as we can on YouTube. But guys, WIMKIN is where we will be making our new home for live streaming uncensored. So get over there and get subscribed on that immediately, guys. So John, welcome back to the show.
Yeah.
We haven't done something like this for quite a while. You've been up to your eyeballs in alligators, literally. For the audience out there, a lot of them, we've had a chance to briefly let them know that you're coming on, who you are and where you're at. Fill the folks in that haven't met you before here.
Yeah, so my name is John Mark Dugan. I'm a former deputy sheriff, Marine, and I was exposing corruption in the United States in my department. I was forced to leave, and I became a whistleblower. I started whistleblower websites for good cops that wanted to blow the whistle on bad cops and bad administrations. And I was investigated for 5 long years. It culminated. I had one of my contacts call me up and say, you know what, they're planning on killing you. You need to get the hell out of here. So what I did is I used some technology. I changed my voice to a woman's voice, and I made contact with like the lead detective and created like an online romance. He thought he was talking to this wealthy Wall Street heiress. And I recorded 19 telephone calls over the course of weeks of him admitting to engaging in all sorts of criminal activity for himself and on behalf of other people, including judges and politicians in Palm Beach County. I was facing 95 years in prison for publishing those audio recordings, 5 years for each one. And the way I implicated judges, you know for sure that they were not going to run them concurrently. So I was facing 95 years in prison. And the FBI, 45 agents came, raided my home. I got the hell out of there. I snuck into Canada wearing a wig. And from Toronto, I flew to Moscow, Russia, where I asked for political asylum. That was almost 6 years to the day.
It's been a long time since you've been home. What does a guy like you do when you get transplanted in the most polar opposite part of the planet, and your life changes so dramatically?
It's a good question. But the answer is, it's not so polar opposite. In fact, I have found that during the pandemic, right, this is what America was supposed to be. During the pandemic, when you guys were having your lockdowns, I was in my car. I traveled across Russia. I traveled to over 200 different cities. I spent 6 months doing it. I had unlimited freedom to do whatever the hell I wanted, going to nightclubs, going to restaurants, while my friends and family were in America locked down. And it was just awful for them. The kids here, they don't wear masks. There's no mask mandates. They don't have vaccine mandates. It's really... When I tell you that Russia and the U.S. have flipped since the end of the Cold War, I could not be understating that enough. So, yeah. Hold on, I'm not hearing you.
No, that
There
was
you go.
me. What I'm hearing is that everything that we knew and learned about Russia was pretty much opposites to what we learned about Russia. We're getting, it might be my end here. I'm working on the audio. We're getting some feedback apparently, so we'll do the best we can here, guys. Working on it. Like I said, we're doing some new stuff here with some different platforms, but we'll try and get it better as we go. So when we first talked, be about a year and a half ago now, maybe first early.
Yeah, it was a while.
Yeah, and we carried on some conversations over some things that we're developing over the last interim, but it's really kind of culminated to a head in the world space right now with what's going on in the Ukraine. And people, I think, are getting a lot of the wrong information or inaccurate information. And this is not to take anything away from the horrible things that are happening to some people. This is inevitable in a conflict. We can't take away any
Hmm.
of the that from those people. But there's things that are at stake here that behoove us to talk about the reality behind the situations, not what the media is telling the world. Um, the media historically, especially over the last 50 years, has been the predominant facilitator of creating war and conflict in our world. When the media wants a war, there are some people that make the media do whatever they need to do to create a bad guy. And more often than not, when somebody is pointing the finger at somebody else, they're probably trying to deflect from themselves. And I think this is what most people are being misled by about what's the truth about what's going on in Ukraine. So for the folks that aren't really up to speed on this, let's take it back to one of the last stories that we were talking about privately. I mean, this is stuff that we didn't go publicly on at the time. I know you've been deeply involved in so many different things over there, but we, over the last year and a half, been talking about a company called Burisma, right?
Yeah.
This is where
Yes.
the rubber meets the road to Canadians. This is a large front company operating out of Canada that is directly connected to what is motivating what is going on in the Ukraine and has been for how long would you,
Oh
20
God, it's been a long time. But I mean, the oligarchs, the Ukrainian oligarchs, really have just screwed that country. They've really sold it out to American politicians. Um, and there's just been no end of corruption s- uh, on behalf of these oligarchs and these Ukrainian politicians and the American politicians and their cronies, like the Biden family.
and these guys and we'll break this down a little bit as we go here, and then before we get into some of their really uh, controversial stuff that's relevant to right now. So people around the world hadn't really heard about Burisma until Hunter Biden, and it started to come out about Hunter Biden. A lot of people had associated the Ukraine with people like George Soros. In Canada, we're very familiar with our Deputy Prime Minister, Chrystia Freeland, having deep ties to Soros and the Ukraine. And this is now just starting to come to the knowledge of Canadians that and where Canada has been involved in this, going back to the Harper government installing Chrystia Freeland's mom into the Ukraine to quote unquote help them rebuild their justice system. So
Hmm.
take us back, and this is where it's going to start to tie into what's happening right now is actually the law and the legalities in the situation about this area of conflict. And this is where, guys, I'm sorry to say, for those of you following on Facebook, this is Boogaloo time. Before we get into this stuff, what's really going on in the Ukraine and right at the moment, and the actual nature of the conflict, we've got to skip off of Facebook, guys. So find us over on WIMKIN. We're going to carry on with streaming on YouTube as well, as long as we can. But from this point forward, guys, WIMKIN will be our new home on that kind of stuff. So I'm sorry to say to you, Facebook family out there, if you want to catch the rest of this, bump on over. We will get a link on there. Find me, Wayne Peters, or at What's Up Canada on WIMKIN. I think I can share. Just bear with me just a second here, and I will share a link directly to the page for you folks.
Yeah, go to his WIMKIN, because I'm about to tell a story about how me and a group of mercenaries went into Ukraine. It's an interesting story.
Very interesting story. And this is going to really help people understand the depths and level of what is going on out there, how extreme this they will treat people. All right, guys, in the chat, there is a link directly to the page over on WIMKIN, and the live stream. You should be able to, as soon as you get on to WIMKIN, you will see live streams and streaming videos. You should see us there as well. So, all right, guys, see you later, Facebook. We'll catch up to you afterwards. Okay. So, all right, there we go. I hope we see a few of these folks popping back in. Man, that sure dumped the the numbers of folks watching this, but they will catch up to us on WIMKIN. I'm sorry, guys. This is the way we have to do it. I wish you guys had prior warning, but we are always under censorship on Facebook. I can't tell you. And if you guys won't move to other platforms today, hopefully tomorrow or the next day, we can get you over there and you guys can get caught up to speed. So, John, tell us. Start there. A group of mercenaries going into the Ukraine. Now, this is going back a little bit of time already. There's some time in between today.
Yeah. This was before the pandemic. I think it was, it was a couple of years ago. I started contacting people on VKontakte, which is like the Russian version of Facebook. If you guys want to check it out, by the way, it's vk.com. It's a really fantastic platform, social media platform, and they don't censor you. But I went looking for people that happened to work for Burisma, and I managed to contact this lady named Marina. And Marina was not happy with what was going on in her company, which was Burisma. She worked for the very top at the top. So she took her laptop and she had all sorts of dirt, okay, on what was happening. And some of it I reported on, about how, like, let's see, she when there was a prosecutor that came to the office with a search warrant, how the head of the company made a phone call, and like 15 or 20 minutes later, the prosecutors, they left, right? They didn't search anything. And but she had all this documentation, all these files on visits from Hunter Biden and other people with him, including some stuff on Joe Biden. And she got scared. They started looking for a mole. And I started a fundraiser to get her out of Ukraine. So what happened is this was a GoFundMe fundraiser. GoFundMe wasn't releasing the money, and they said, "Well, we need her identification, right?" And I'm like, "Well, she's a whistleblower. Freaking this could get her killed." And they're like, "Well, you're not doing it." And I told her, I was like, "Look, I don't have the cash to come get you, and they're not releasing this unless you give your passport information to them." So she says, "Okay." She's like, "It should be fine. Give them a copy of my passport." And she sent it to me. I sent it to GoFundMe. The next day, I think it was, um, two guys came to her house, beat her, stole her laptop, stole a box of files that she had. One of them, I hate to say this, they raped her with a hairbrush, and they beat her badly. So she sent her child with her mother to Crimea during this whole episode. And I found a way, thanks to one very wonderful person, I found a way to assemble enough money to get a team of mercenaries. We went in through Belarus and through Chernobyl, drove through the forest in Chernobyl, and then made our way to Kiev, where we picked her up, and we got her out. We came back the way we went in, and everything was okay. She's living in Russia now. I haven't talked to her in quite a while, but she had a really terrible experience. So
Has she been able to reunite with her kids?
yeah, it took her a while because nobody had the money at that time. I didn't have the money at that time to help her. But yeah, we finally got her reunited with her kid. It was I was probably 7 or 8 months after that.
Has she been able to get her truth out?
She had such a bad experience. She's safe. She doesn't want to tempt fate. She's like, "Look," she's like, I wanted to do it. She's like, this almost killed me, and I just can't." And I totally get it.
Absolutely.
And anyways, the evidence that she had was robbed from her anyways. So
Mhm.
yeah.
But this is a pretty raw indicator at the human level of what these corporate entities will do and the level of corruption and infiltration and power that they have uh, to wreak havoc. And this is the foundation of what these guys have been doing over there in that region of Ukraine. So let's fast forward a little bit here to where we're at now. Just a few days before the shooting started, you've been giving testimony over there. Tell us a little bit about that, how you got to be sitting in that chair doing that, and what you were doing there and purpose behind it, if you will.
Well, so I've actually I've helped several people escape out of Ukraine. Actually, so Marina, she was the first that I helped out of Ukraine. I've probably helped a dozen people escape and get asylum in Russia since I've been living here. But I had another person in Ukraine who happened to be a bioweapons a bioweapons expert who was working for a bioweapons lab in Kharkiv, and she gave me a bunch of. I say she, but maybe it's a he. That person gave me a bunch of documents, and I made a video about it. And the video is actually on my channel. I did it 2 months ago, I think it was. So I published some documents that I had, and some of the shenanigans that were going on with these. There are 15 different bioweapons labs in Ukraine that are funded by the U.S. Department of Defense. And I only got these documents when I was able to get her out. And So I just kind of got picked up on the radar here because look, I know the history of Ukraine. I know what's going on, and they're very interested in hearing from my American point of view because I'm an American that has the facts. And you know, look, if I didn't agree with it, I would have told them. I would have said, yeah, what you guys are doing is crap. But Russia's not in the wrong here.
And this is what I've been having a lot of discussions over here, with people that are really struck with their lifelong understanding of who Russia is or is supposed to be, but not necessarily understanding the current situation and what's led to this current situation. And we have to go back a long ways, in the history books to understand this current conflict right now, literally back to the collapse of the USSR.
That's correct.
That's where the dispute originates in its beginning form of where we're at here right now. And
Hmm.
so I guess, to set this up for you to explain a little bit more, after the collapse of the USSR, borders and whatnot kind of became blurred, and some of these nations were attempting to establish sovereign status. So this was a region that is loosely known as Ukraine, but isn't actually Ukraine. It's actually a former territory of the USSR that had 30 years to get their poop in a group and failed to get it done. And in that period of time, has devolved into this wild, wild west of corruption and crime and a mercenary haven. Is that a setup?
Yeah. So actually, you have to go back to 1905. Um, Sorry, my cat's back here. You have to go back to 1905. Um, so the Donbass region, okay, was actually a part of Russia. So it's all Russian people. They have Russian heritage. They speak Russian, and so after Ukraine became a part of the Soviet Union, um, what ended up what ended up happening is to make management of these cities easier. It was just easier just to remove the border that was separating Donbass from Ukraine, and just redraw it around the Donbass region and making Donbass a part of Ukraine, because it was just much closer to Kiev than it was to Moscow in St. Petersburg at that time. So, uh, what you end up with is a group of people, okay, who are really Russians. And the Ukrainians, especially the Western Ukrainians, they hate this, because they won't assimilate. They want to speak Russian. They want to keep their Russian heritage. And the Azov battalion, okay, which is like it's literally it's a Nazi battalion that's kind of running the Ukraine military. They have been committing mass genocide in the Donbass region for years. I mean, just in the last 8 years, when the Donbass decided that they wanted their independence from Ukraine, they've killed 14,000 civilians.
It's that's a part of the story that the mainstream media intentionally omits. And omission of information is as dangerous as lying in my books, because that really changes the entire context. It just in one facet, it changes the entire context of what is going on over there. And and this is not to give Putin a get out of jail free card in any. And this is not what this discussion is about. At the end of the day, justice will find a way to be established. But in the meantime, my point of bringing this out, as controversial as it might be, is that nobody needs a third world war. Nobody needs a fourth world war. And we're seeing ultimately the media machine attempting to manufacture another world war to cover up dirty politics. And that is where my foundation for wanting to have these discussions, the forbidden discussions, is because enough sons and daughters have paid the price for dirty politicians. And this Ukraine is kind of the bread belt and fuel belt of the heartland of the of that region. But it's also at this point been turned into the heartland of corruption and money laundering, and that world of psychopaths has gotten smaller over the years, but it's become even more concentrated in Ukraine. Uh, so tell us, John, now this genocide that's been going on there. What do you think pulled the trigger on these events right now?
Well,
Besides just a genocide, we know it wasn't just a genocide. This has been going on for a long time, and Putin did not like this for a long time. And even people over here, like Glenn Beck, have been screaming for a year and a half or 2 years about what's really going on with the Burisma, the money laundering, the proxy wars. If people want to look at just what's righteous and what isn't, Putin should have been shooting at all of us a long time ago for what our dirty politicians have literally been doing to him there.
yeah.
I have a hard time saying that.
So look, the deep state, the war hawks in the American government, right? They need more money. And so what they decided to do is they left all the weapons in Afghanistan, and now they need more, right? But there's no war going on, so who's going to give them funding? And so they manufactured this crisis by trying to push Ukraine into NATO, which they know there have been agreements signed since 1992 when the Soviet Union fell that NATO was never supposed to be in any former Soviet bloc country. And they know that this was going to cause great tension, right? But the Biden administration, or whoever is actually running the Biden administration, wanted this tension because now they need to produce weapons, and it's been very effective. They just got a contract, 250 Abrams tanks going to Poland. They got another contract, 64 F-35s going to Finland, right? All these weapons going to Ukraine. You don't think that they're just giving these weapons to Ukraine, do you? Absolutely not. You look at what the British has sent. All the shipping invoices have been leaked. So for their thousands of missiles that they've been sending, people are making millions and millions of dollars off of this. Okay. And so, yeah, we, the taxpayers, we are funding this. We are funding this turmoil that has been caused by the Biden administration. And, Putin is sitting there. He can't let this happen. Look, Ukraine, they've been run by these crazy neo-Nazis. And literally, I mean, there are malls, I showed my last live stream, there are malls that have Nazi flags inside. There are government buildings that have the Nazi flag flying next to the Ukrainian flag. They are extremists there. And you don't want these kind of people having nuclear weapons. Well, the other day in Munich, Zelensky says, you know what? We want to join NATO and we want to rearm ourselves with nuclear weapons. And that was the tipping point for Putin. And I mean, look, if he let it go, they'd have another Iran. But the difference between Ukraine and Iran probably has nukes. They haven't used them. Whereas Ukraine's, they've been killing civilians wholesale in the Donbass. And people like that, they would be more than happy to use a nuke on their own citizens.
It's an interesting side of the discussion, and it's one again that the the mainstream media, the legacy media, mocks when when Putin speaks about denazifying that region. Um, this the People don't understand the history of who Nazis really are, and one of the things that I think they're starting to understand is that even after World War II, the Nazis didn't disappear. They just got picked
No, they just
by
moved
all
to Ukraine.
well, Ukraine, Canada, Mexico, South America, they just took the best of the best of the bad guys and weaponized them for their own purposes. And here we are 50, 60, 70 years later, where never again is now, and we are literally facing the rebirth of the Thousand-Year Reich under the banner of the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab. These guys are literally the Fourth Reich. These guys are real Nazis, and these guys have created this region of the world that is the illegitimate army of the actual brown shirts. So these are real life Nazis where life means absolutely nothing to them.
Yeah, yeah. Um, my friend George Pierce, who actually has been living in Ukraine since 2006. He's an American. He was a contractor in the military. Um, he was telling me how one of his some guy he knows, I think his neighbor, how he brags about his grandfather, how they used to kill women and babies during the Nazi occupation during World War II. These are horrible people that relish the thought of exterminating Jews.
And yet, truckers in Canada get called Nazis for having a love fest on the street. This is how bizarre and twisted the media has become, that they choose
Well,
to ignore and support and endorse
but
the
but
acts of.
this is the goal of the leftists. Okay, they want to water down these terms by by calling everybody Nazi. So when you run across a real Nazi, it's not that big of a deal. You call everybody a racist. So when you run across a real racist, it's not that big of a deal. They have been working so hard to water down these terms that that they really don't mean anything anymore. So when you say, "Oh, this guy's a Nazi," no, no, this guy is really a fucking Nazi. Excuse my language.
Well, and that's exactly it. So people don't understand that these guys that have taken over as heads of state in so many countries, come out of this youth program from Klaus, are real Nazis. We are literally in the battle for humanity across the planet right now. It's just that Ukraine is the hotspot. And I think there's even still more to this. And I've dropped the link to your video where you outlined that about the chemical warfare labs. But before we get to that, um,
Mhm.
Parliament. You were testifying to Russian Parliament this last week. What did
Yeah, I
they
was.
you?
I'm sorry. What you cut off into?
What was it that you were sharing with them that it was directly affecting to this? I was listening to these, and I'd like you to share a little bit of that with the people, so that they can hear from the horse's mouth what the government over there is hearing from people.
Well, my point of testifying to Parliament, right, is I wanted to highlight some of the things that were happening in America, some of the ideals that these leftists are embracing, uh, because it's very important that Russia actually defends itself and sticks up for its its ideals and its values, and doesn't go the way that it seems like every other Western nation is going. Um, because what's happening in the West is such an awful tragedy that if you were to tell your grandparents this back 30 or 40 years ago, if you were going to tell them what exactly was happening in the world today, they would never believe it. Um, and we've just come to this place that is just so unbelievable. I mean, I heard a story the other day that on a school field trip, right? The school let the transgenders, the dudes dressed as women, sleep in the women's um, tent or dormitory or whatever it happened to be. And I mean, look at these are I say this with all due respect. These people, they have mental problems, okay? When you're a man that you think you're a woman, there's something inherently wrong with your mental state. And this is demonstrated by the fact that 40% of these people actually commit suicide.
It's interesting in that that people don't understand how manufactured that is in our society, and how far that goes into the programming that they're using to destabilize our nations, literally by assaults on the nuclear family. If we're disconnected from our family, our reality, our species, our society, all of those things, we have no investments to resist or to fight for them. That's ultimately their goal. And this degenderizing of our society is literally within the UN SDA and the Migration Compact agenda. The media is tasked to train us to eliminate words like family, mom, dad, father, parent, these kinds of things. Like, this is just a never-ending assault that has allowed these kinds of things to become so normalized. In Canada, we literally have pedo time, story time hour that they circulate, and they go through libraries and kindergarten classes with these freaks and monsters. And how dare you speak out against this? You are instantly canceled from society if you try and speak out about this kind of stuff in Canada. And this is all, again, under that same directives of this World Economic Forum agenda. And this is where, to put it in the most basic sense, I think, for people to understand. And people tell me all the time that, Putin was also a graduate of the Young Leaders Program, I believe in the first class with Angela Merkel. But that doesn't mean he is committed to the cult, that the same cult that beliefs that these guys have 40 years later. That's what, there's been a huge time frame in there. And he's understanding at this point that following this one world order, this new world order, World Economic Forum, United Nations, whatever you want to call it, this training, reprogramming of our entire world to this unipolar, where we're all gray, we all eat the same things, we all have the same medicine. Well, he's realized that no, he's not willing to give up his Russian culture, heritage, country, all of these things to play that game. And last year in Davos, he stated it to the world that he was done playing globalist games. And now here he is a year and a bit later, and he is literally cleaning up. In my opinion, the simplest way to put it is he is draining the swamp that is in his backyard. And these guys in the swamp have been planning some really, really horrible things. And with the lack of leadership, power structure, common sense, even sanity in the Western world, he's looking at 15 biolabs on his border that can't tell the world the truth about how something has come to become a worldwide problem under this communism, that has really nothing to do with sanity. But these guys playing deadly dangerous games, playing with all kinds of horrible things, and they're doing it in his backyard under the power, or under the governance of these rogues.
Of the U.S. Department of Defense. And so first, I just want to mention one thing that you said about pedo days. If they tried that here, the guy the guy would be riding home in an ambulance if he made it. If he made it. And the teachers that organize that stuff, they'd be right there with them because they do not tolerate that. Now, that being said, look, if they have gay people here, there are gay clubs. They don't care what you do. But if you try to indoctrinate somebody, they do not stand for it. That's the first thing. And the second thing is, you're absolutely right about the bioweapons labs. There's one, it's a DoD funded bioweapons lab, and I mentioned it in my video from 2 months ago, that was built. It's underneath a veterinary clinic, okay? And it stood out like a sore thumb. It's in the city of Kharkiv, which is in the northeast side of Ukraine, like just a few miles from the Russian border. And it sticks out like a sore thumb because all these American and English speaking doctors are always going in and out of the basement of this veterinary clinic, right? Um,
Nothing
so
odd about that, right?
yeah, yeah. So that's actually the laboratory where, and it's like their most secret lab. That's the lab that the individual that gave me these documents was actually working at.
So that's just one, right? Just one.
Hmm.
What?
That's just one, yeah.
Just one. So 15 of these things. What's going on there, John?
Well, you know, first of all, there are reports that Putin bombed them, and I had spoken to my contact, and she looked at a map of like where a building used to be. She's like, yeah, I think that was where it was. It's hard to tell with all the debris, but she thinks that that was one of the labs that was bombed. And you know what? Putin did the right thing because we've already seen what happens when the DoD funds these bioweapons programs, and these people who are not qualified that are reckless with safety protocols. They catch it, they go out, and they spread it to other people. Look at this pandemic that we're in, right? Hundreds of thousands of people have died from this. The whole world economies have just collapsed, for the most part, because of one of these labs letting out one of these DoD funded viruses. So, and they have had outbreaks of various um, diseases that they happen to be working on in these laboratories. They've had outbreaks of those diseases in the areas. So, that these viruses are getting out. Um, there's a huge.
Sounds like they've got a grade 6 biochem class labs staffing system with a level 4 biohazard warfare uh, department. Like this is
Yeah. Yep.
so
So,
there's been all kinds of these anomalies going on over there, is what you're saying, and that's
yeah.
you in check out John's video. It's in the comment links, or I've shared it out there. Uh, so this is, I think. Do you think that this is with the Bill Gates just recently saying that there's going to be another one? The basically the falling apart of the Biden administration under the newfound evidence of election tampering, all of these things. Do you think that it was just enough was enough, or do you do, you- do or,
I think the Donbass declaring independence and then them shelling it is really what broke the straw on the camel's back. You know, um,
So
Putin
yeah,
didn't ask for much.
take us through that a little bit. There's been shelling going on for there've been action going on long before Putin fired a shot. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the last 8 years, there's been a very hefty campaign, and like I mentioned to you, over 14,000 civilians in Donbass have been killed from the shelling. I know several people that live there, and one lady said she came out. Her neighbor was laying dead on the sidewalk with her dead little baby in her arms from some shelling. And I mean, just the stories that you hear from these people are just absolutely horrible. And you know, the Minsk agreement, I don't know if you know what that is, but it was an agreement that was signed. I think it was 2015, and it was supposed to fix all of these problems. And Poroshenko and Zelensky, they never took it seriously. They never did any of the steps in this Minsk agreement to address any of the problems. And Putin has been pushing for this. He's had many talks with these leaders, and he's extended olive branches. He's really tried. Look, nobody wants war on their doorstep. You know, when there was unrest in Georgia, okay, Putin sent in a peacekeeping team. They fixed it. They were out of there. Just recently in Kazakhstan, okay, the Biden administration said, "Oh, this is going to be bloody. Russia's going to be in there for 20 years." Guess what? They fixed the problem. They were out in 2 weeks. Okay, Russia is not an occupying force. They don't want to be an occupying force. They don't want war at their doorstep, and they're not going to tolerate the shenanigans of the Ukrainians and NATO and America bringing death and destruction to their borders. They're just not going to do it. And I'm glad Putin is strong enough um, to be this kind of leader for his country in the face of um, the twisted narrative that the mainstream media of the West is writing about him.
Well, the deeper the more that comes out about this, and when you're looking out, anywhere but the legacy or mainstream media, this Go plan that he's engaged in here, he had this drawn up, and this plan was ready to go in 2019, and I think that him and Trump may have had something to do with him doing not being forced to do this action on his own. I think that there was some collaboration there to try and resolve the problems. But since the surprise Biden victory, I think that he was kind of left holding the bag. And all along
Yeah.
here, this jousting of projection by the American Democrats is really they I think they're going to rue the day for getting what they wanted. And I say this because they needed a war. They desperately needed a war, as you stated. This the American economy for a long time has been a war-based economy. Without a war, they're not making money. The biggest people at the trough are not making them what they're used to, and have become a highly specialized private security firm, economic driven government in the States. And this is not knocking the States, but that machine needs to be fed, and they consistently need a war. And they really needed to kind of cover up their mess that they've created, as they've done in so many other nations that they've intentionally destabilized. They needed Putin to be a bad guy in this war, but it's not happening.
Yeah.
It's really not happening. So a couple of really clear indicators to me right from the get-go was internet services weren't shut down. People could stream, they could film, Google services were still working. If you're an occupying force intending on dominating, those are the first things you take out is communications in your enemy's field.
Absolutely.
Everything was so precise. Um, Russia's a really massive country, but they really don't have
11 time zones.
right 11 time zones,
Yeah.
but they don't
11
have
time zones.
necessarily the biggest military. They don't have the biggest military budget, but they're incredibly efficient and disciplined in what they do have and do. So, having studied an awful lot of wars over my years, the precision and accuracy and the what they've accomplished there with minimal interruption even into the civilian life is impressive, to say the least, for any action force anywhere. The Americans couldn't do things that surgically and cleanly right now, I don't believe, with the command structure that they have in place.
No, I mean, just look at this debacle when they pulled out of this retaliatory strike after they pulled out of Afghanistan, where they killed an entire family, saying that their intel said it was like terrorists. And they killed, what, 7 kids and 3 adults? And even after that, they lied until they just couldn't lie anymore. And they had to say, well, yeah, it really was a family. We're sorry. Um, you know, look, I'm not saying that they're not going to be killing some civilians, because it's going to happen, it's going to happen in a war, and it's really a terrible, terrible thing. But they're going to do their best to minimize it, sure.
Yeah, we're a long ways removed from the days of carpet bombing Dresden, and this has been from a military perspective a very fine example that people will study for a long time about how to surgically remove countersurgents, highly organized and well funded and well armed, with minimal loss of civilian lives. But it's I think it's I think that for the most part, probably the biggest action might be over, and I think this was done by design by Putin early to make it clean and efficient before there was a million UN, NATO troops, American troops over there, just with itchy trigger figures, and them trying to escalate this into something much bigger than what it has any cause to be. And this is again where I say where they're going to rue getting what they wanted. They wanted Putin to start a war. Well, he didn't really. He just cleaned up his own backyard, and there is no war. And he's been incredibly intelligent about that. And the mainstream media is going to fall on their ears, because that region of Ukraine was never a sovereign nation, and Ukraine still isn't a sovereign nation. So all of these things. This is why I think what we're doing here now, as rough and raw and as it might be, is what it's going to take to stop World War III. And as many of
Yeah.
us other small people doing the talking about the right things is already having an impact. I'll be connecting you with some of my friends down in the States that are doing some big work in talking about this, not picking sides, but talking about this. We cannot make
Yeah,
important
sure.
decisions without the truth. And this is
So,
where nobody wants any more of their sons and daughters getting shot at for no good reason.
if there's one fact that proves that America wanted this war, Biden only had to say one word, okay? Putin had a meeting with Biden, and he only asked for one thing. He asked for one thing: keep NATO out of Ukraine. Okay? Keep NATO and their weapons out of Ukraine. And Biden could have said, okay. And that would have been it. But Biden didn't. He said, can't do it. Why? They knew that NATO wasn't, like, they knew that the Germans and the French, they weren't going to let them into NATO. So why didn't Biden just say, okay, yeah, that's cool. We
Mhm.
don't. I mean, how do you think Americans would react if the Russian and the Chinese sent a bunch of tanks, a bunch of troops, a bunch of uh, naval vessels, and a bunch of aircraft to Mexico and staged all this on the border with Texas and California? Do you realize? Do you realize the outcry and the panic that there would be?
Yeah, it's laughable, and I think really what they're doing is they're just trying to find ways to destabilize everything that kept the world at peace for the last 60, 70 years. Those are the things
Mhm.
that they must undo. So this is why, they're constantly sticking their noses into places where the status quo is working just fine, and they don't need to have any part in that. And it basically comes down to greed and corruption every single time. Every time I look, you start digging into one of these things, it always comes back to the money. It doesn't matter whether it's the magic bio weapon that they've released on the world, or this battle in Ukraine. It's either about the money or covering up the crimes.
Well, and this is exactly why Trump was hated by the establishment. You remember, was it the Hunter Biden laptop when it came to fruition? You had all these Pentagon chiefs, right? Or these former Pentagon officials signing letters saying, "Oh, this is disinformation put out by the Russian government to help get Trump reelected." Now, these are the same sons of bitches that are working for these arms companies, these defense contracting companies, and making a fucking mint. They weren't going to make all their money under Trump because Trump was a peacemaker. He tried to make peace with North Korea. He tried to make peace with Russia. He was trying to make peace with Iran through strength, of course, but he is a peacemaker and he's a good negotiator. And he would not have let this Ukraine problem ever escalate to this point.
No, and again, isn't endorsing any which person is looking at what has led to us slipping down this slippery slope, and I think you're 100% right on that. Uh, like him or hate him, nobody wanted to be across the negotiation table from him ever, and that's something that there isn't, I think, anybody left in this administration that has that capability to bring that to the world stage, that caliber of confidence and leadership and responsibility. There's some people, I mean, perfect example of the lunacy of this is Prime Minister Soy Boy Castro up here threatening Putin. Like, really, dude? You and your flag gonna go and knock Putin in the teeth? Like, I mean, give your head a shake. Do you remember who your northern neighbor is? Um,
Dude, I would love to see Trudeau in a judo ring with Putin. I would I would pay every bit of money that I have just to see that. Because Putin's about my size. He's not a big guy, but man, for his age, that guy is fit. And he would fricking wipe the floor with that blackface wearing racist bastard.
That would be yeah. Maybe if we can come up with an alternative form of justice, maybe we can make that just Trudeau's sentence for his crimes is go and spend a couple of days in a ring with Putin. It'll only take 2 minutes.
Well, you know what? If Trudeau was a real man, he wouldn't want to send troops. He would just say, "Look, Putin, you and me in the ring, mano y mano. Let's keep all the troops out of this. Let's keep all the civilians out of this. Let's just do it, you and me, dude.
uh,
That would be money, baby."
Uh, I think we'd have to do that in cartoon because that's the only way we'll ever see something like that happen. I mean, he doesn't have the spine to come out from under his bunk at the cottage to talk to some blue collar workers, right? I mean, it's just laughable.
Oh yeah, dude, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
unbelievable. That's one thing you got to say about Trump. Love him or hate him, he always showed his opponents respect. And even Kim Jong Il, yeah, he called him Little Rocket Man and stuff, but he had enough decency and respect to go meet him to address the concerns and at least try to work out a deal. Yeah, it didn't work, but he tried. All the other people, right? All the other politicians, they're like, no, let's just shun him because that's going to accomplish something. That accomplishes nothing except creates animosity, and then you don't know where the other guy stands.
yeah, exactly. Then it goes to for forbidden discussions and things that they shouldn't be talking because frustration and they're being driven underground. And this is where true evil breeds. When people like that find each other in the darkness, they become capable of pretty nasty things. So I don't want to go all afternoon with you. Maybe we'll do this a little bit more often. Uh,
Yeah,
what
anytime.
what's the temperature of things there today? This Is this shock and awe over? Is what's going on there today?
Oh, everything's pretty normal. I mean, I was out today. The only thing that wasn't normal is I went to Spurbank, who they said they were having sanctions there, and it was a huge crowd of people that were there to take out their money from the bank. So lots of I took a photograph of it. If you want, I can show you, but it was a pretty big crowd for a Friday evening.
That's interesting. I know I was watching some live stream footage from Kiev and I wouldn't even be able to say the other name, but from some city cam footage kind of thing, stationary cameras, and seemed like the lights were all on. There was the odd little bit of traffic. In middle of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning, didn't seem like anything was out of place in what I saw. So I was kind of feeling like maybe the storm per se of shooting might be over there. And where does the dust settle now? Then.
I don't know. I don't know. I think this thing in Ukraine is not going to last a long time.
Yeah.
I think everybody's like, oh, Putin's going to install his own person that he likes. Well, yeah, I think he would. That'd be the smart thing to do if you're a guy like Putin. You know, um, install people that are going to clean up the mess that is Ukraine. And I think once that's done, they're going to be out of there because, like I said, they're not an occupying force. Russia never has been. It's not like America, who has occupied more nations than I can count in the last 50 years. Um, they're going to be in, they're going to do what needs to be done, and then they're going to get out and they're going to help Ukraine rebuild. I know they will.
So what does that look like? Do you think over the next couple of days to a week? Do you think the fake media is going to be forced to become a little more quiet, or are they going to? What can they do over there to try to pretend like something bad is going, worse is going on than what might actually be?
You know, it's very easy for the fake media to spin it. And the problem, right, is they love ratings. CNN is probably in their glory over this because at least some people are actually watching the news now.
Hmm.
Um, so these people thrive on it, and they're gonna make this seem like a much bigger deal than it is. I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong, it is a big deal what's going on there, but they're gonna spin it and they're gonna try to push this hatred. And they're going to use these State Department talking points that they've been using the entire time. There's no independent or objective journalism left in the world unless you read columns like Glenn Greenwood and some of these other people.
Hmm. So I'm just going to pull up a map here and
Hmm.
kind of let put it into perspective. Kind of the how small this region is that is creating world interest, shall we say, and people can see it for kind of for themselves. So I'll start with zooming right in here. Um,
Yeah, no, you got to go left.
there we go.
There you go.
There we go. Okay.
Now zoom in there. Just zoom in a little bit below Kharkiv. There you go. So you see you see the move your mouse to the right to the border there. There's like a little finger that's sticking up. Yeah, a little more to the right. Right there.
Yep.
So the border of Donbass goes from there, and it kind of circles around Donetsk to the left,
Okay. Yep.
and then it meets um, right about where your mouse is right now.
So
So it
this
meets the border
basically is
there.
the region that is in being contested right now.
That's correct. That's correct.
So when we all of this smoke and pomp and fluff, and when we look at how big this little speck of land is here, this is what
Hmm.
the Biden administration wants to start World War III over.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's his pretext. Sure.
To put it in the most simplistic terms for a 5 year old, it just makes absolutely no sense. And when you look at start to stack up the reasons why Putin had to do this, and what the cost versus benefit ratio on who's doing what, Biden versus Putin. I'm sorry, I cannot endorse anything that North America's got in mind for any of this. Well,
Yeah,
John, this has been a blast catching up with you on some of this. What do you want to
you
share with
too.
us over the next couple of days? Maybe we'll get something together again early to mid next week, and you can keep me posted of any interesting developments. Maybe we'll bring people up to speed again sometime
Yeah.
next week.
So there's one more thing that I wanted to share with you. Let me see if I can pull it up here real quick. Just give me a sec.
No worries.
I think it's here. Maybe this one. Uh,
If it's something you want to share with the
yeah.
group, you can just drop it in a private chat on the right hand side. You'll see a button you can click on there and drop it in there, and I can.
Yeah, yeah. But I can't. Well, it's probably not. Wait, what's the date?
It is the
It's
25th here.
the 25th. Yeah, yeah. Hold up. Here's what I wanted to show you. So here's a PowerPoint presentation that I did. Can you full screen this? Yeah, so here's a PowerPoint presentation that I did. And I just kind of wanted to point out, you see all these different colors? These different colors are all different factions in a massive civil war, all fighting against each other. Okay? So on the left here, you have all these this is like where all the Nazis are, and down here as well. So you have oh no, yeah. So you have a lot of Nazis. Just it's this green area right here is what's disputed, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, you can unfull screen it if you want. You there?
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Does not make any sense as far as for the PR and the media hype. That just has to have make everybody look deeper. There's just no justification for what the media is saying except for cover up and profits and crime sprees, in my opinion.
Yeah.
All right,
And you
John.
saw it. Oh, okay.
Go
Well,
ahead.
have a great day.
No, 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 no. I didn't mean to cut you off there. If
Well, I was
something
gonna
you want to
say
share.
you saw just the other day that a classified email came out from 2016 warning that Hunter Biden's business dealings in Ukraine undercut the anti-corruption message that his father was advancing. Did you see that?
I didn't see that.
Yeah,
Right on par, right on par. Where can
yeah, that's it.
go ahead?
Well, so look, I don't read like a left wing media. I don't read a right wing media. I kind of go in the middle. I actually read the Daily Mail because they're very neutral. Actually, they're a little bit liberal, but for the most part, I mean, they're not scared of like the American politicians like the American media is. So I read this on the Daily Mail, and you can actually see it right there. Yeah, by the way, Ukraine is in bed deeply with these American pharma companies. They have been for several years using these Ukrainians uh, in experimental trials to include the CV-19 vaccines that they're pushing on everybody now. Yeah.
Uh, it just it's so crazy that the level of sheer evil and nefarious actions these guys will commit is no longer even a surprise. It's hard to
Yeah.
be surprised by what these guys will engage in.
Yeah.
John, I think I want to do this again next time.
Anytime you want.
Let's bring your
Oh,
slideshow and let's go over some of that, and we'll bring some more stuff, and let's shoot for something midweek next week and really uncover the nuts and bolts in this stuff. I think people would appreciate that. And one of the challenges of it's one thing to share the information, but for the information to survive out there is the challenge these days, right? is which
well, these liberally run technology companies, they are the new totalitarian regime.
I kind of coined this new term, this new hashtag I'm using on Twitter, hashtag woke terrorism. This is really where we're at. Is if you're a woke person, you have carte blanche for terrorizing anybody who isn't.
Yeah, yeah, but it goes even further than that though, because they are actively using their platforms to silence people. In fact, this is how bad it is. Um, I gave an interview to a television channel here, and I published it on my Facebook page. The title of the interview with was slow death of democracy in America, and the purpose of the interview was to outline how big tech censorship was silencing dissidents from having any say in their point of view. You know what happened? I got a strike and they removed my video for spreading misinformation. You can't make that shit up.
You know, I know exactly what you mean. Throughout this uh, quote unquote scamdemic, um, I gave I launched a series called Doctor Talks, where I was literally had the opportunity to have the Dr. McCulloughs, the Dr. Bridles, the Dr. Rishes, the biggest names, and give them a platform to speak because they were getting silenced everywhere else. I lost all my YouTube channels. I lost all of my other platforms for giving the most credentialed people in the world an opportunity to speak. But at the end of the day, they taught me so much about security and those kinds of things. And we've now established and built a platform that they can't mess around with. So now we're going to be
Yeah.
getting back into doing more stuff like this where people can speak freely, uncensored, and give it a home and a place where it can live, where these guys can't just knock it down so easily. So, uh,
And which platform are you primarily on now? Which one are you speaking about?
well, we've rebuilt our websites. That was one of the first things that I did was we moved everything to Switzerland. The internet laws in Switzerland are pretty much the same as their banking laws. If you're not breaking the law in Switzerland, they will tell the alphabet agencies to go pound sand. And so
Mhm.
we built an extremely secure system there. We had a custom designer build us all kinds of features into it, and now we've had some pretty high level attempts to remove our stuff, but they haven't come anywhere as close to being able to affect us. So we're
Interesting.
kind of live streaming and using the fishing in the barrels that are out there, but the home of stuff is now on our website, whatsupcanada.org. And since you and I met, and over the years, the last year here, I've co-founded another organization here called Ethics Over Fear. And
Mm-hmm.
it's an independent task force group that is comprised of many of these same blue chip medical experts, doctors, scientists, legal teams, lawyers, health practitioners, with kind of a twofold mission to create interventions into the crime sprees going on, and to rebuild seeing through all of this, what's it going to look like on the other side. So we've been doing a lot of work over there on that, with connecting dots and people to, in doing all of this, what we do by nature, we red pill people. And
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to take a step further in taking responsibility for these people that we red pill along the way, and giving them a path to where they can get more, where they can find a softer landing. We can't be everything
Yeah.
for everybody, but we can help them get to the people that they need to, whether it's health or trauma, or whatever the case might be, legal advice, counsel, those kinds of things. So this has been an evolving thing, a lot of really good work going on, and so we've developed all of these platforms to be hosted in places that are out of reach, and others are doing the same.
Yeah.
Streaming now
Cool.
on WIMKIN. This is another platform that's developed out of necessity. People needed a place where they could speak freely and not get
What
beat
is
up
it?
for it.
WIMKIN?
Yep, yep, and
Because I need to find something else because I think that pretty soon I'm gonna have to be gone. I think YouTube is gonna kick me out.
I'll be really surprised if they don't, John. Really surprised. The nature,
Yeah.
I think you kind of fly a little bit under the radar a little bit, because you're off off the shelf. You're not off the shelf subject matter in what you do, and
Yeah.
you don't cover a lot of different platforms. You're actually kind of hard to find if people don't know what they're looking for.
Right.
So
Right.
that's kind of helped you stay, I think, alive on these platforms. But I think I'd be happy to help you get set up in more secure ways so that you could be more confident in what you're doing, and we'll stay out there.
Cool. Well, I'm
Yeah.
signing up as we speak. So the next time we talk, I will have a Wimkin account. Actually, I'll probably have one now. So yeah.
Well, I will actually. This is one of the benefits and perks of these guys have been developing this platform for a little over a year. I know the developer. He's a guy just like us. He was basically classed as the deplorable and expendable, and he kind of went, "Nah, I don't think so." And people have skills. Adapt, improvise, and overcome is the human nature, and that's the one thing about conservative people is we have creativity. The drones and the Borg don't.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I look forward to helping you get more established over there and reaching a broader audience over there. And they've got some good support networks over there through there as well. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Cool.
All right,
Well,
John. Well,
thank
thank
you.
you. Um,
Thank you so much.
it's a pleasure. Good to catch up again. And next time we'll be a little bit maybe more focused. It won't be quite as big a drink from a fire hose as it was for folks out there today. But for
Yeah.
those of you that
But it was important. It's important to put everything into context.
it really was, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to have somebody that's there and understands the dynamics of it. I know there's going to be a lot of questions, there's a lot of comments, and maybe we'll be able to address some of them when we get back together the next time. So,
Cool. Well, make a list. I'm ready to go.
awesome stuff, John. You have yourself a great
All right.
evening, and we will do this again soon.
All right.
Hey guys, that was another interesting opportunity to talk to somebody that you just don't get to see and hear from those kinds of things anywhere else out there in the world. Um, bear with us. Thank you for enduring some of the technical difficulties and challenges. This will get better as we go. Share this out. Find us on our website at whatsupcanada.org. I think I can even spin that out there for you guys. Perhaps. Not. That's one of the things that I'm not the best at, is pumping my own stuff. But yeah, I don't even have a banner for that. Imagine that, right? I'm just more interested in talking to people than I am promoting. Yes, find us whatsupcanada.org, guys. If you guys value what we do and want to help us keep going, we need your help now more than ever. Donations and gifts and tips can keep us moving forward and help us do bigger, more important things for you guys. You can do that at donate at whatsupcanada.org as well. And I appreciate your time, and let's just keep fighting, guys. We will make Canada Canada again, and this is the battle for humanity. So keep smiling, stay strong, and tally ho, we got this sooner or later. Bye for now.